Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Chow, Ms. Farber, Madam Secretary, Acting Inspector General Joseph LaPerry, Mr. City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, members of the public. Today is Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Suthers, Shields, and Kalonji are present, and we have a quorum. Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the Board Secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinion shall be deemed off-topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations, dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there's a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. At this time, we'll move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief Chow.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Acting Inspector General Yu, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. Sibley's office. Today I'll be discussing significant events from the previous week, providing a crime update and discussing our personnel strength. The first item I'd like to report on is officer-involved shooting in West Los Angeles that occurred on July 29th, 2024 at approximately 3:20 in the morning. West Los Angeles Division uniformed officers responded to a radio call of a burglary suspect in the 2600 block of South Halm Avenue. Upon arrival, the person reporting told officers that the suspect, later identified as Lavelle Adama, attempted to break into his home before breaking his elderly neighbor's window and entering her residence, causing the victim to flee. Shortly thereafter, the victim's house was set on fire. The person reporting attempted to put out the fire when he observed the suspect inside. Los Angeles Fire Department personnel responded and also observed the suspect inside of the victim's residence. While inside the victim's residence, the officers attempted to take Adama into custody. However, Adama produced a knife and lunged towards officers, resulting in one officer deploying 2 beanbag shotgun rounds towards Adama and then barricading himself in the residence while still armed with a knife. Metropolitan Division Special Weapons and Tactics, SWAT, responded and were establishing containment when Adama exited his residence through a side window covered with a blanket. SWAT officers gave multiple commands for Adama to show his hands, drop the blanket, and comply with their directions. Multiple warnings related to force being used were also verbalized to Adama. Adama did not comply. Instead, he lifted his right arm, holding a large butcher knife, and charged at the officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. The suspect was struck by gunfire and fell to the ground, dropping the knife. Los Angeles Fire Department Tactical Emergency Medical Support, or TEMS unit, immediately assisted Adama, who was determined to be deceased. No officers or other community members were injured as a result of this incident. Force Investigation Division responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. The Los Angeles Fire Department arson investigators also responded to the scene and are investigating the fire at the victim's house. This year to date, we have 18 officer-involved shootings, a comparison to 14 at the same time last year, which is a 28.6% increase. We also want to report on an in-custody death that occurred on the MTA line on July 27th, 2024 at approximately 14:45 hours. Uniformed officers assigned to Transit Services Division overtime detail were conducting a foot beat at the Metropolitan Transit Authority B line North Hollywood Station. They observed the subject ferry evade and walk onto the train platform. Officers followed the subject from a distance as he began to yell and exhibit erratic behavior. Officers believed the subject was suffering from mental illness when he walked towards the edge of the platform. The officers were concerned that the subject was about to jump onto the tracks and attempted to verbalize with him. The subject failed to respond to verbal commands as the officers contacted the subject and a non-categorical use of force occurred. The subject was able to escape from the officers by jumping down onto the subway tracks. He subsequently fled southbound through the B-line tunnel towards Universal Studios subway platform. The officers broadcast a backup request and waited for additional resources. A team of officers boarded the subway train in order to locate the subject. The officers observed the subject running through the subway tunnel, but were unable to detain him and lost sight of the subject. After approximately 35-minute search of the tunnel by the officers while riding the subway train, they located the subject underneath the third rail of the tracks. Los Angeles Fire Department personnel responded to the scene and pronounced the subject deceased. No officers or other community members were injured during this incident. A Los Angeles County Department Medical Examiner Coroner's Office autopsy is pending, and notifications to the next of kin have not been made pending identification of the subject. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene, are investigating the incident. The third incident I'd like to bring to our attention is the highly publicized use of force in Southeast that we became aware of the day of. On July 28, 2024, at approximately 17:20 hours, uniformed officers from Southeast Patrol Division observed a vehicle double parked facing the wrong direction and conducted a traffic stop at 113th and Graham. The officers conducted a traffic stop for the above violations, spoke to the driver of the vehicle, who was initially uncooperative, but eventually exited the vehicle. As the officers were attempting to handcuff the suspect, a non-categorical use of force occurred, which included a punch to the subject's face. The force utilized by officers was recorded by bystanders and broadcast on Facebook Live, and is also trending on social media as well as being picked up by mainstream media. The subject was arrested for 148 PC and transported to the hospital, treated for pain to his jaw and later booked. A supervisor responded to the scene and is investigating the use of force. The involved officer in this incident has been removed from field duties while the investigation into the incident is conducted. There was an active use of force investigation as well as a complaint investigation. No officers or other community members were injured during the incident. The investigation, I've asked the investigation and use of force to be fast-tracked. Southeast Command, their senior lead officers, as well as Operations South Bureau and Office of Operations have done and are doing community outreach in regards to this incident. I also wanted to comment very quickly on two series of burglaries that also have received media attention in Northeast and the Silver Lake area. On July 27th, 2024, a series of burglaries occurred along Manzanita Avenue in the Silver Lake area. Uniformed officers from Northeast Patrol Division responded to 3 separate calls for service. Initial investigations indicate that the same subject is responsible for all 3 burglaries. Detectives on Northeast are actively working to identify the subject using evidence recovered at the scenes. In all 3 incidents, we believe we have forensic evidence that is being fast-tracked through our Forensic Services Sciences Division to identify the suspect. Then in the West Valley, up in the Encino area, the department's aware of a burglary series occurring in the Encino community located in West Valley Division. There have been 5 reported burglaries between July 10th and July 28th in the Encino neighborhood south of the 101 freeway. In this series, the suspects tend to break rear glass doors or windows and make entry into residence and flee with property. Detectives in this case are utilizing investigative techniques in an effort to identify suspects responsible for those crimes. In addition, we've got Detective Bureau and our Commercial Crimes Division providing investigative assistance to try to tie these burglaries together, identify suspects, and use other types of investigative tools to see if we can tie suspects to the 5 series. And we have Air Support Division doing extra patrol. But I want to ensure the residents that we are working diligently to apprehend these suspects and those responsible for crimes. Officers will be conducting additional patrols in the area. The below is a breakdown of burglaries and residential burglaries in the West Valley area in Encino, which is reporting District 1078 for year-to-date and the past 4 weeks. In summary, year-to-date burglaries are down. However, in the past 4 weeks, compared to the same time period in 2023, burglaries and residential burglaries are up in the West Valley area, in Encino, and in the Encino area. For the past 4 weeks, burglaries in Encino, south of the 101, are actually up 40%, or an additional 8 victims. Hence, we see the pattern, and we will be doing all that we can to identify suspects and educating community members. I also want to point out, too, that Operations Valley Bureau and the command at West Valley have done extensive community outreach and Zoom meetings to key community members up in Encino to go over crime prevention, a discussion on crime prevention, and disseminate information regarding the burglaries in an attempt to obtain video and obtain eyewitness accounts of our suspects so we can start connecting the dots. I'll shift to crime as of week ending July 27th, 2024 from a citywide perspective. An analysis is based on a victim count for year-to-date through July 27th, 2024. Citywide for the week ending July 27th, 2024 compared to 2023, year-to-date crime is up 3.5%. Property crime is down 3.4%, and total Part 1 crime is down 1.9%. Regarding homicides, homicides have been trending down since the week ending of March 16th, 2024. In the past 20 weeks, a year-to-date increase has seen a decrease ranging from a plus 30% in March to a minus 2% currently. Compared to 2023, the city has seen a year-to-date decrease of approximately 2.3% in homicides. Victims shot. Citywide victim shot is down 13.7% compared to 2023 and down 27.5% compared to 2022. In the area of aggravated assaults are down 2.5% compared to 2023. In the area of robberies, total robberies are up 20% compared to 2023. The areas of significant increases in robberies in 2023 include Rampart, Newton, Southwest, Wilshire, and Southeast. Robberies, which is a disturbing pattern, are with a firearm up 7.2%. Regarding our burglaries, I touched on that a little bit, but I'll just talk about it from a citywide perspective. Burglaries are up 3.8%. Year-to-date 2024 commercial burglaries are up 3.9%. Commercial burglaries account for about 43.7% of the total burglaries year-to-date. Year-to-date residential burglaries are up 3.8%, and residential burglaries account for about 56.3% of the total burglaries. Motor vehicle thefts are up 1.8%. 2023 year-to-date through July 27th, 2024. The bureau that is having the most issues with motor vehicle theft is in Valley Bureau, and that includes Mission, Foothill, North Hollywood, Devonshire, and Topanga. We're still seeing our Kias and our Hyundais being the most stolen vehicle, with Chevrolets now actually entering the picture. Personnel strength as of July 29th, 2024. Sworn personnel as of July 8th is 8,808. We're 75 above our sworn TO of 8733. Civilian staffing is at 2,612, and we're 13 under our civilian staffing authorities of 2,625. Reserve officers remain at 380. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments from the Commissioner? Vice President Shields.
Thank you, President Southers, and thank you, Chief, for the report. One of the first questions I was going to have was about the third incident that you spoke about that has garnered media attention, and I'm glad that you included it in your report. There are times we see things unfolding in the media, but they're not discussed here, and I think it's important that the department alert the commission and the community about things that are impacting the community and really undermining community trust when it comes to the department. So I appreciate that report. I had a couple of questions relating to it, and I understand that there's an ongoing investigation and won't impede that. But you mentioned that a supervisor responded to the scene. Who requested the supervisor to respond to the scene?
Well, actually, in reviewing the video, the subject actually requested a supervisor, and because the officers had involved in use of force, they also requested one. So a supervisor responded, and when we became aware of the actions that were depicted in the video, a complaint investigation was also completed.
Okay, thank you. And so the supervisor responded in real time?
Yes.
Thank you. And did the officers have body-worn video also activated?
Yes, they did.
And you mentioned that the complaint that you've asked that it be fast-tracked. Do you have a sense as to what that time frame would be?
I've asked Office of Operations to complete that use of force investigation in approximately 1 to 2 weeks, and then that will allow the complaint investigation to be completed. So the goal is to complete both of those investigations, within the next 3 weeks.
Thank you. And did you mention that the officer involved is no longer actively working at this time? Is that?
He's assigned non-field duties inside the station.
Okay, thank you. And with regards to the series of burglaries, I appreciate that additional air support is being requested and also additional patrol. Is there anything that we can alert the community members as to the pattern? Is there a specific time of day that these robberies or burglaries are occurring?
These are occurring at night and early morning hours, and what I would ask community members to do is if you see something, say something. A lot of these burglaries that are being committed by crews, and we don't know if this is a crew or not yet, but that's why we have commercial crimes actually looking into it. There is a little bit of kind of intelligence gathering and casing done by the crews so they know what houses to hit. So if community members see anything unusual in their neighborhood, they pick up something on a ring cam, there's definitely something that we need to know about, and nothing can be less important than giving us information about what they see.
Thank you, Chief. Those were my questions. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Commissioner Calanche.
Thank you. Chief, just a couple of more questions about the incident in Southeast. Can you talk, and you can tell me if some of these things you can't answer, but because of the investigation, but can you tell us what precipitated, I know you said it's a traffic stop, but can you give us a little bit more information? And also, and then two, can you tell us how long there was a struggle before the officer engaged in behavior that is unacceptable?
Yeah, this is preliminarily from what we understand is that the traffic stop was conducted based upon the suspect who had double parked and was facing the wrong way on the road. They made contact with him to ask for identification, and eventually they asked him to step out of the car, and he refused. There was an attempt to handcuff him, and I don't want to get into specifically exactly how long that took, but from the video I saw, it took it took an extended, well, not extended period, a while to try to handcuff him, and I don't want to get into when the punch occurred because the investigation is still ongoing, and I'm really not clear on that right now.
Okay, and at what point was a supervisor called? Was it before the punch or after?
I'm not clear on that right now, and the investigation will have to push that out. But I do remember on the video the suspect asking for a supervisor, and then, of course, based on our protocols, when a use of force occurs, we will the officers request a supervisor also.
What is our policy on double parked cars?
Well, that is a violation of a vehicle code, and based upon the obstruction of traffic and where it's parked, and it's parked facing the wrong way, you would be able to articulate a traffic safety hazard and conduct a traffic stop to identify who is driving the car. You want to make sure that person did end up there and maybe is not impaired. Those are all things that you'd want to do if you saw a car that was sitting on the wrong side of the road to do a traffic stop.
Okay, and lastly, just to be clear, this is not something we condone.
No.
Right, as a department.
Well,
Right,
no,
and especially as a commission.
Yeah, that's why we've got the investigations going. Again, as I mentioned, we will fast track the use of force investigation as well as the complaint investigation. That's why it needs to be documented so that we can address the issue and determine, what happened.
And any other video that we have, whether it be a body worn or anything else, would also be released to the public?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Chief, one more question about the Southeast incident. Just a point of clarification. Was the officer who struck the individual removed from field duty, or were both officers removed from field duty?
I know for sure the officer that struck the individual was. I'll follow up on the second one for you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 2, public comment. Madam Secretary, please announce the first speaker.
The first speaker is Mistress Karen.
I don't know what kind of authority do you have under Brown Act that to shorten my name by half, but okay, a typical LAPD secretary. When Chief mentioned about that incident, it reminds me something. It reminds me that when I was a kid, and one time my mother told me to go to sleep, and I refused to do so. And then my mother immediately slapped me on my face. And then from that incident, I know that I need to listen to the instruction in a timely manner. So the chief's report reminds me that one of my childhood lessons from my mother. I have a concern about the safety in city of LA, because I just have something I just couldn't understand after taking numerous administration of justice courses. Instead of punishing the criminals, but what I see, LAPD is scared of criminals. Instead, during the 2020 looting and rioting event, instead of making sure to hold those looters and rioters accountable, what I see the LAPD chief more get on his knees to those criminals. That's the part I have a hard to understand. From what time that we have to provide services to criminals instead of putting them, letting them know there's consequence when you break the law. I have a concern that when we have identity politics in law enforcement, that when you are white, when you rape a woman, you are sentenced to 25 years in prison. So you know you made a mistake. But when you are black, You rape someone, you kill someone. All of a sudden, after a couple of years, you are in probation because, quotation mark, systemic racism. What is the equality of the law? So why that committing same crime give you a different treatment? Why that not everyone is treated equal under the law? I have a concern that in this room, that when certain color, like Mr. Herman, breaking an order, he was removed immediately. But when some other people breaking the order, they were able to stay for as long as they want. What is the equality treatment under the law? Why the LAPD enforcing the law based on the color, based on their DEI status, based on their quota system, not based on the content of their characters, not based on their criminal behaviors? I could never understand that. DEI.
Thank you.
Next, we have Betty Lay.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
Chief's report, agenda items, public comment.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Well, first, I'd like to let the chief know that I appreciate his report. I also support all the donation agenda items. And for public comment, I'm hoping everyone will attend a national night out at some point on Tuesday, August 6th, so we can give crime, drugs, and hatred the night off and support everybody. I thank you and I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker, the Red Chief Hunt.
Good morning, President and Vice President. I told you this bullshit was going to happen again. And I said, LAPD department is doing the Chief Daryl Gates thing. I told you that 3 months ago. This is bullshit. It's not an aberration. It's just what they're practicing. And I told you, Shields, I said, let's meet on this. I tried to call his office last week and set up a meeting with him, Child's office, and couldn't nobody do that. I know it's a whole bunch of bullshit that's still going on. This is not just an aberration. This is a situation that's still going on today. 20 or 25 years later after the Rodney King beating, because the way you guys are running LAPD, man, and I've foreseen that, and I tried to sit down with you guys and mediate with you guys and talk to you guys. We have to move to change because they don't know what they're doing. The supervisor, did he ask the supervisor before or after? I asked for a supervisor before, and before they do anything, and they still turn around and still handcuff me and stuff like that before they detain me. So I know it's a whole bunch of bullshit out there because I'm on the line first, and I'm testing LAPD every day. Every time I can, I'm testing them, and they fail the test. 9 out of 10 times they fail the test. This is why I'm the highest paid activist in the country. Now, when his attorney comes in here, and I already talked to him, I'm going to have him consult with Stephen Rody to make sure that this gets filed in federal court because this is absolutely bullshit. Chow, you're going to file a 242 against that officer. That's the same thing that they would file against anybody else. That's a battery charge, a 242. You're going to relieve him of his duties, or else I'm going to ask for you to step down. You know, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Don't nobody know who's running the LAPD. I'm over there sitting with the mayor's office and everybody else's office, and everybody said, well, who's running the LAPD? Chow, can you answer that? I tried to set up a meeting with your office regarding that. Who's running the LAPD? Nobody can answer that fucking question. And I hate to say that, President, you African American, that's just BS. Shields, I tried to set up an appointment with you as well because I foreseen it coming. You can't run a department like Chief Daryl Gates. You know, people have more respect for Beck than Chief Daryl Gates. This is just not an aberration. This is a situation that's going on. If you go over to those police stations, this is why you can't call the watch commander and get a radio response, because it's absolutely bullshit. And you guys know it. You can't call 911 and get a response. That's a broken theories thing. And you guys know what you guys are doing is fucked up, man. You guys need to change the policy back to where it worked at. This does not work. I'm asking the DOJ to come in to investigate.
Thank you.
Next, we have caller ending 1264.
Hello,
Hi, what items would you like to speak
can
on?
you hear me?
Yes, what items?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Yeah, I don't understand the hiring of more officers when they don't have any authority to really do anything. Our streets have been taken over by illegal vendors. They've come into our residential areas. They're spotting out our homes, and they have no authority to remove them, to even ask for any ID or anything. Normal procedure. Now, on the situation where the police officer punches the suspect, you had a police officer there. I don't know how tall he was, but I mean, he was a small person. So, I mean, it's difficult to get somebody who is, if we're talking about the same person, that big to comply. If he's resisting, I mean, it's incredibly difficult. You know, I don't agree with that he punched him, but I mean, I don't understand how you expect them to get them to comply. They need to comply, because if they don't comply, then it makes things very difficult. And but the police officers don't seem to be having any authority on our streets at all. Unfortunately, the political situation is just as bad, and we're not able to even pull over people who have no insurance on their vehicles, which affect us because that affects us insurance, which makes insurance more expensive. So we're obviously really doing damage to the law-abiding citizen, and actually empowering the criminals here. So we are totally inverting our whole system. That's all I have right now. So I hope it changes.
The next speaker is Susan Rocha. Jason Reedy.
Okay, so the LAPD murdered another person in mental crisis yesterday. Go ahead. Okay. This time, SWAT participated. We know for a fact the LAPD had ample time to put together a perimeter, had ballistic shields, had dozens of pigs on site, and still found a way to kill a black man with a blanket and a knife. Now, a neighbor gave his account of what happened and said his brother sprayed your latest victim, who was completely naked at the time, with a water hose. So the idea that a black man you killed couldn't have been detained alive is farcical. In LAPD's own training manual on ballistic shields, you state the primary purpose of the LAPD ballistic shield is to provide NIJ-rated level 3 ballistic protection to previously unprotected areas of the body. What would you like to say? While also giving protection to the carrying arm and upper torso, in addition to the soft body armor already worn, the ballistic shields are intentionally designed for the ease of mobility in close quarter situations. Now, NJI Level 3 guarantees the shield can withstand 5 7.62 millimeter or .308 Winchester rifle bullets. They can also protect officers from blunt and edged weapons. SWAT themselves wear body armor that's classified at Level 3A, offering another level of protection. So if you gave all that protection to a citizen like us, do you think they'd leave a community member dead? So what's your excuse? Now, your SWAT pigs, who look like they came right off a killing field, who are the pallbearers of death and destruction that you dwell at in our communities, the most fit, the most quote-unquote trained, and somehow they still found a way to murder a black man in mental crisis. Now, then right by Nickerson Gardens, an LAPD testing ground, one of your pigs punched the black man in the face for asking, "What did I do?" And what we saw in that video wasn't shocking, it's standard, right? And the black pig who allowed it to happen, his name is Luther Lordress. Yeah, we got his ID. And it's only a matter of time before we find out the name of the other pig who punched, the black man in the face. Now, LAPD won't release his name, but again, in due time, we will. The video also reveals how your pigs were telling him to stop resisting when he was already in handcuffs, but the video shows he wasn't resisting. and yet you guys still punched him in the face. Now, LAPD, with the help of the commission and the media, will frame this as an aberration instead of recognizing it as a pattern we know all too well, a pattern of murdering, terrorizing, and preying on black men. And as black men, we understand how we have the biggest target on our back. Ronald Stokes in 1962, murdered by the LAPD for being Muslim. Leonard Deadweiler was murdered in 1966 by the LAPD while driving his wife, who was in labor, to the hospital. William Leonard was babysitting for a family in 1968 when the LAPD murdered him. Stephen Washington, a 27-year-old autistic black man, was murdered by the LAPD in 2010 for walking on the opposite side of in the opposite direction on the sidewalk. Or Shario Mack, murdered by the LAPD in 2018 for being in mental crisis at the Crenshaw Mall. Takar Smith was murdered by the LAPD in 2023 alongside Kenny Anderson for being in mental crisis. Again, you guys.
Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Gravener.
Your time has expired, sir. Step away from the podium.
I'll speak on all items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
All right, starting off with the chief's report. The chief's report should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the chief's report exceeds 30 minutes, we should be able to match the amount of time the chief took. Regardless of how long the chief takes, we should all be able to speak both in person and on the phone. Seems like a real lack of information about the officer punching someone in the face on camera the other day. And you all claim, well, that's not normal. That's not our established practices. That is normal. That is your established practices. It happens regularly. It's just that it happened to get on video this time. That's why that's why it's on. You're hearing about it because it's on video. This happens on a regular basis, and it's just standard practice at the LAPD. Let's move on to the consent agenda. We have, let's see, we have destroying more obsolete records. I don't think any records are obsolete. Keep the records. If people request them, send them to them expeditiously. There's nothing that's obsolete, especially if you're doing it like it for recent records. Keep the records. Stop destroying evidence of your own wrongdoings and your own crap. Let's move. Let's see. We have another donation. We've got reward money for snitches that you're rewarding. Fuck that. We have this one. We've got a donation from NBC Universal for $500 for gym equipment. It's an interesting relationship you've got with them. You know, the folks who are reporting on your stuff are donating stuff to the LAPD. You give them all your exclusive access. You get like this friendly relationship with the press. The press should be reporting on what you're doing. So I don't know why you have such a strong relationship. They're like donating stuff to your gym. We have $10,000 for events, wellness, and equipment for Operations Valley Bureau. That's ridiculous. Just pay for your own events through your budget. We have $10,000 just for the Harbor Area Wellness Day and Holiday Party. That's ridiculous. What the heck are you doing at those holiday parties? We have another $13,000 donation for equipment or something. We have, let's see, $20,000 for Apple Vision Pros. What the heck are you using those for? Yeah, and where's your exit music this week?
The next speaker, Hamed Khan.
So one of the things wanted to bring us back to was that I think it was March of 2020 or so, when the whole format for the police commission meeting got changed. And that's the joke that has been just constantly for the last 4 years that we have seen on the community, that this is supposed to be a people's forum. These are supposed to be the representative of the people. And this meeting is supposed to be when they have to hear from the people of Los Angeles as to what's going on, their views. So now this whole format never existed. We've been coming to these meetings for almost like 15, 20 years, and you would get a chance to make a 2-minute comment after every item, the way it's supposed to be. Now, and this was also that they had an item, and they made a presentation, and then you would, at least people would hear what the department is saying, and then you'd come back and make your comment. That way it's supposed to be. Supposed to be, and it had been going on since the police commission had been in existence, and they opened this place up for public comment. During Bill Bratton's times, during, what was his name, Charlie Beck's time, during Moore's time, so that has been going on, right? So here it comes that because of COVID, well, we just got to protect ourselves, all right, understood. And then now we're going to go online. Okay, understood as well, but why the fuck is everything compressed to a 3-minute goddamn public comment? Where all of these things are being decided about the people, how this thing runs, how this national security police state continues to operate, how it constantly keeps on rebranding itself, how it just keeps on bringing bad programs like SARA and the same old tried bullshit for weed and seed and predictive policing and suspicious activity reporting, and people are really getting impacted. We've released reports about it. We've released this report back in 2018 or before the bullet hits the body, and we can actually see what's going on, the patterns, that how conditions on the ground are established as a result of data-driven policing, as a result of hotspots, as a result of laser zones, as a result of anchor points, as a result of neighborhood engagement areas, and you use this language on and on and on, but this is like this sort of like flip that is going on. So we demand that you need to open this thing up. We need to demand that you need to bring it back to the way it's supposed to be. Otherwise, this is like, people always say that you are a rubber stamp body, which you are, and this is a sham. You're just adding more spice to it. So we've got to go back to the way it used to be. And it's not like, I'm not talking about something that you got to pull out of thin air. That was a practice. That's exactly, and that's what the democratic process is.
Thank you.
Next, we have caller ending 9809. Caller 9809, you're on. Okay, move on to the next speaker.
The next speaker is Matios Kadei.
My name is Matios Kirana with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. I just want to say at the very top, in relation to the video that's been circulating of the black man being punched while apprehended by LAPD, naming an instance of violence, in this setting that's already well publicized is not something worthy of praise. And I know you praise that, Commissioner Shields, because it's so uncommon, but I think that praise is worth zooming in on, because I think it does point to this culture within LAPD that we need to name, which is an effort to conceal and mask the violence that's regularly perpetuated by kind of bolstering up this secret police force. Last week when we brought up the death of Sonia Massey, I had said these instances of explicit and egregious violence are really emblematic of policing. They're not an outlier in any way. And we see now come to light the effort that kind of frames that as an outlier event, as an aberration, as other people have put it. But it's worth naming kind of the efforts that try to mask this violence. And so we've seen this kind of pop up when, the coalition and the community released this website, Watch the Watchers, where the LAPD and other city officials kind of perpetuated this false narrative around undercover officers being endangered, right? Just another effort to mask this violence. Also, deleting rosters that have been previously posted online on the web portal Next Request. So we see this effort to mask, to hide in secrecy, despite the fact that this is supposed to be a transparent body in name, right? Or a reformed body in name. And it speaks to the genuine intention of this body, which is to do what we saw in that video, right? To take a black man who's been apprehended, who asked the question of what did I do, and beat him in the face and continue perpetuating that violence while sanitizing it with a body like this. Lastly, this whole question of additional air support needed to prevent robberies, I think it's worth uplifting. LAPD has the largest aerial fleet of any municipal police department, period. So to ask for more air support is insane. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely wild. And lastly, Chief Chow, I think accusing anyone of intelligence gathering while asking for ring cam footage is stupid. It's laughable. Just wanted to name kind of this increased surveillance, this expansion in violence. I think what Hamid brought to light also, this change in format that the Board of Police Commissioners has kind of underwent since 2020 is also emblematic of the fact that you're trying to suppress political dissent or hide the fact that there is dissent in order to perpetuate this violence. You know the violence is going on. You don't want it named. Beyond the ways that public comment has been minimized and the ways Hamid is named, I think it's also worth noting that there used to be a camera that would face the speaker in these recordings, right? That's gone now. There's an absolute erasure of the speakers present. If you look up the YouTube video, like a lot of us do, to recap what the Board of Police Commissioners is talking about, we hear our audio, but we're not present. You've erased the opposition visibly. I yield the rest of my time.
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
There seems to be an epidemic of people not doing their jobs inside the buildings at the LAPD. Once again, I refer to the modern technological face of the LAPD known as the website lapdonline.org. The website is a continual embarrassment with the welcoming team of the ambiguous androgynous Asian with the lecherous smile and her partner she uses as a literal prop with her hand over her badge or breast. What exactly is the message that's being conveyed there? They certainly don't look like they are ready to take care of business, not police business, in the street anyway. It certainly seems to be a DEI message of identity politics, the emasculation of the LAPD. While there is certainly a need and a place for women in policing, our imagery should portray officers who look like they can do the job and take care of business. I remind you that the LAPD is having a serious problem recruiting officers, and that image is not attracting the best and indeed deterring them from applying. Does anyone have any fireworks complaints in the last week of July? Nothing says diligence and dedication than outdated notices that are just left there in a highly visible location. And while we're on the subject of notifications, why aren't pending planned events placed in the events section? Are events some kind of a secret until they have passed? Is this more of the community policing by invitation only philosophy? Community policing means timely notification of meetings and events so the community has the opportunity to participate. Every community is entitled to a professional implementation of community policing. Every community. As a resident of Los Angeles, I am very concerned for the future of the LAPD, public safety, and the city itself, and I know I am not alone. However, participation at police commission meeting is abysmal, and it would appear that the police commission does everything to discourage citizen participation. The department must do better in communication and responsiveness. There must be transparency and accountability. Perhaps we need to take a look at the city charter and address the issue of having an elected chief and an elected police commission. The Brown Act also seems to be more of an impediment to police commission responsiveness to citizen concerns and questions, as it has erected an invisible shield to protect our own commissioners from our own citizens' questions. Thank you to all the LAPD officers who are doing the job and protect and serve with honor. You are the heroes. We know you are there and support you, and no matter what the critics say, illegitimi non cumberundum. Don't let the bastards grind you down. God bless the LAPD. I see empty seats there on the police commission. They have to be filled. Do your job. And that applies to everyone from the top to the bottom.
The next speaker, Megan.
As we close in on the 10th month of live-streamed slaughtered babies in Palestine, it's important to continue to lift up the links between LAPD and the Israeli Defense Force. The LAPD trains with them, exchanges weapons and technology and tactics for domestic suppression. The military tactics which now terrorize the Palestinians will be adapted and taught to police departments all over this country. Just wondering if the Citizens' Voice in Police Affairs will condemn the slaughtering of Palestinian citizens by its beloved training partner. But the connection is also the dehumanization of Black and brown people. Is there ever a week that we come in here and LAPD has not killed, assaulted, raped, or sucker punched a Black community member? Or violently suppressed a protest calling for the end to genocide or calling for the end to violence against Black and brown people? And that's all just what's caught on video. And as many people have already lifted up, we see the culture of violence of this institution plainly illustrated in that video of an LAPD officer assaulting a man in handcuffs. He's aware of being videotaped. He still felt completely comfortable committing that crime. Can you fathom him doing that to a white guy? Can you? Or in Topanga. What would have happened if that man had hit the officer in the face like that? We all know. Why does this officer still have a job? And it's because he's actually upholding the values of LAPD, not its stated values, but its practiced values. And you should know that your concerned faces and softball questions aren't fooling anybody. Thank you for mentioning this incident. We don't often hear about these incidents. Oh, tell us when the supervisor was called. Maria over there giggling as she says, just to be clear, it's not something we condone. Yeah, it's not clear, and you know it. You can't even say it with a straight face. Against all the evidence, I do believe that you have conscience, what's the plural of conscience? And I do believe that it bothers you, and it's just a question of whether you're actually going to do something about it.
Next, we have Mona M.
Good morning.
Good morning. What
I need
items would you like to speak on?
all items, please. I need to open up this comment with a what the hell. Last week, you had an emergency meeting to hear public comment about the selection of the new chief, and then you limited the time. I still want my voice heard. We in the community pray that the new chief is strong and determined to bring justice through the rule of law. The new chief needs to be cognizant of improprieties that are prevalent in the department, improprieties that include a bias toward the Church of Scientology, and we pray the new chief can pitch the status quo to enforce the law to protect children being abused and survivors of the cult not given due process to reconcile their wounds. I offer this picture to you, not just the chief, but all of you. A box in the middle of a church pray area. The box is full of poisonous serpents and vipers. A parent puts a child in the middle of the box. You are tasked with deciding if this is a freedom of religious First Amendment rights or child abuse. I pray you can take this task to heart. Hashtag kids cannot consent. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
The next speaker, Dr. Critical. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. Dr. Critical. We already said it, sir.
Good morning, Critical Truth-Based Policy Analyst. Whereas millions of Africans and their descendants were enslaved in the United States in the 13 colonies from 1619 to 1865, LAPD, Highway Patrol, Sheriff, they all derived from something called slave catchers. The fact that you don't even have a Black woman on that panel, Sambo Southers, and you got Blake Child, is problematic. So this House resolution was developed in 2008 by Mr. Cohen, an apology from the United States, and where reparations is still at hand. So there's a price tag to it. The resolution is this: acknowledgement that slavery was incompatible in the basic founding principles recognized in the Declaration of Independence, that all were created equal. At the time that this declaration was considered, we were property. But yet in 2021, Blake Child, your people had Stop Asian Hate bill passed in 30 days. To this day, George Floyd Policing Act is still shelved. Acknowledge that the fundamental injustice, cruelty, brutality, and inhumanity of slavery and Jim Crow, that's a price tag of at least $1 million. Apologizes to African Americans on behalf of the people of the United States, the writings of the wrongs against them and their ancestors suffered through slavery and Jim Crow. Mass incarceration affects my people the most, but there's no bill protecting us. Mr. Southers, are you listening? The person described in the House Resolution Bill 194, please read it if you don't know it. This is the apology in which there's still no price tag behind it. Sonia Massey was shot because she was a descendant of slave, no other reason. There's a price tag that needs to be behind that. So we're asking that whoever's in the presidential seat in 2025, whether it's the Sleepy Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration, or Dump Trump, we need a bill passed. $5 million for descendants of slaves and 60 acres of land. 20 measures on top of the original 40 acres that was still not given to us for good measure. That's all we're asking. I need to see responsibility for people to cover us. Alexander Mitchell, driving while black. Over and over again, you do what you are told to do by the slave catchers. Where you going? Show me your papers. Why are you arresting me? Sucker punch in the face. Standard operating procedures. So we're asking that you put your money where your mouth is. You need a black person, black woman up there in that commission, at least to represent the people. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to do anything else. We don't care how you feel about us because you show us every day. Without policies and legislation protecting our black bodies that built this country, everybody else that comes here got housing, benefits, protections, and laws for immigration. Nothing's wrong with that. But don't forget the descendants of slaves in which H.R. 194 was created to apologize for the wrongs that you know your ancestors did. Now we need a price tag behind it. So let's keep it real. It's power to the people, black power.
Thank you.
Next, we have Audit LA.
Yes, hi, good morning. I'd like to speak on all items, please. Yes, it goes without saying that we are tired as a community of unarmed people and people at the sharp edges having to be killed and people also in mental crisis. I would like to take a minute to discuss also the Metro. At the North Hollywood station, it is an incredible show of force by LAPD. And then you go throughout the rest of either on the train or the other stops, and it's a ghost town when it comes to police presence. And, so no wonder that any person in crisis is going to be scared and run to their demise. I also want to bring up that when it comes to CPRA requests, you guys are abysmal. I have so many CPRA requests in. I believe I've only been given one out of maybe, 30 to 40 over the past year. And I'm asking you, my email to please release my CPRA requests because you guys try to hide and use ridiculous reasons to not be transparent. I am also wanted to speak about a young man, 17 years old, who's anti-Scientology protester and a cop watcher who was swatted, and they took him out of the Metro again in cuffs. And another young man who's was behind him, just trying to be looking out for the 17-year-old, said, hey, I can't wait to return this in to your superiors. And just for that comment, the officer turned around and arrested him. So are we now being arrested because we publicly dissent? There was no violence. It's all on video. It was just, I can't wait to turn this into your superior. That's the proper channels. And you can be arrested for just saying you're going to go through proper channels with reporting the police. And is that, and I can't tell whether or not it's, Scientology, because you're so in bed with Scientology, or if it's just that's how you treat people. But the way we see you shooting 18-year-olds who, are just approaching your car unarmed, get killed, people with knives who are in mental crisis get killed. There's just a level of anger and violence that is terrifying to the community. And all the money you're taking in today, 50 grand in 1 week, I'm going to ask that you would please give money to the victims who were needlessly killed because they were either unarmed or because they were in mental crisis and needed help. And you guys are incapable of providing proper help to people in crisis. We don't want our citizens being killed. It's the citizens who need to be given body worn camera. Yes, we want you to have it, but we need it at this point. Everyone needs to be filming the police. I know the police don't like you to film, but everybody, please. You see police, pull out the camera because it's more likely they're going to behave better when you do. Thank you.
The next speaker, Jonathan Foster.
Hi, good morning, Jonathan Foster. I think what I needed to start with was today's OIS Salcido. The officer, they shot this guy because the officer didn't have any body armor on. And this is what I've talked about. I made a gentle suggestion that they need head-to-toe body armor. You ask all these questions, what do we do about the knives and the mentally ill? I have the answer. Do you know no one's listened to me for 6 years? I've had the answer. I saved every one of them. And I saved every police officer who got shot. And first thing on the punch, is this an officer that would get fired on the spot? Here's a spot. Is it smaller or bigger? Is he getting fired on the spot? Would that officer get fired on the spot? I'm going to come back to this. A few other things I wanted to talk about is the General Hospital guy that got shot, Johnny Wachter. You know, I thought about saying that women shouldn't walk alone. And yet here a woman was walking with a man and the guy gets shot still. So even my suggestion, the guy would have been killed. So this badge tarnisher, oh, hold on, got to back up. When I went to the bathroom and came back, the officer was yawning, and I suggested that we need a sleep log for every officer so we know when they slept and how much. And Brigadometer was talking about trust. Here this guy punches somebody in the face. Are we creating trust, or is it out the window now? The badge tarnisher. They call him a badge tarnisher, right? Is this officer being fired on the spot? If we don't like what he says, we'll punch him. It's because this kind of crap, I don't want to be American when I see this, right? And there was another one. There was a guy who was kicked in the face. Nothing happened. There was a George Floyd Valentine that went around. Nobody got arrested. Eric Rivera, nobody got fired. Jamil Shaw Jr. with Special Order 40, nobody got fired. You got 3 blacks that were pulled over in a car, nobody got fired. Somebody asked, was it on a police cam? See, I want to support with the birth certificate from the Department of State and 76 years of service to the United States military in the family that I came out of. I've been on my brother's nuclear sub in Rota, Spain when I was 8. I saw all of this on Army bases all of my life until I was 10. So I want to support this, and I do, but I can't, and you all feel the same way as I do. I know you're not, thinking the same thing, but this can't go on anymore like this.
Thank you.
Next, we have Philip Tabby.
Good morning. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Good morning, though, to those that are there, because not many commissioners that are there. Commissioner Shields and Commissioner Suthers, thank you for being the good professional example. If commissioners cannot make the weekly meetings, you should resign. There are way too many absences and even an empty seat where we the people deserve to be represented. Mayor Bass, please fill that empty seat with a qualified individual. We need a new chief of police, and we need to pick the best one for the job. Because of our former corrupt chief, our current and former command staff LAPD officers are not ready, and they don't fit the bill. They were all improperly trained and have ties with city council. Our city deserves a new start with the major rise in crime, the Olympics soon approaching, and the personnel strength is not that strong. We need more qualified officers desperately. This department still has a vaccine mandate to be hired, and that needs to change today. Other important changes that also need to be made is to fix the non-emergency line, and please make sure PSRs are trained on all items that require a police officer. I had to call non-emergency a second time because the PSR transferred my call before I could finish. Each time I had to wait exactly 35 minutes. Now, in today's chief's report, there was talk about an incident that stretched on longer than most other items. Why didn't the chief discuss the protest around Foothill Station? Another thing mentioned in today's chief's report is the rise in burglaries and the outreach to communities. Well, why is it that some communities get this outreach and others don't? LAPD needs more uniformity. It seems like every station does their own thing and no one is running the show. Interim Chief Choi has stated that he doesn't have the authority to replace the blue line flag. Red Chief Hunt was spot on. Who's running the LAPD? Get rid of Loose Hands Lozano. He's horrible for Foothill. God bless the LAPD. Yield the rest of my time.
The final speaker is Ernest Moore.
Do I have 3 minutes? Oh, 2:59. My organization is the Forgotten Americans Network, and LA BAM, that is the Los Angeles Black American Militia. My media is the Justice Channel at tjcla.com. I know a lot about LAPD in Los Angeles. I grew up in Los Angeles. My first run-in with LAPD was back in the 70s, about 77, when I was pulled over with a friend of mine who was just blowing a whistle out of the window, and the cop pulled us over in front of Crenshaw High School, which was my old high school. I got out of the car and I raised my hands. I said, "Don't shoot, don't shoot." He came over, searched me extensively, and I said, "I didn't break any laws. Why are you still searching me?" He moved back around behind me and he choked me until I was unconscious. He put me in the back of the police car, and when I came back to consciousness, I said, "You could have damaged me permanently by doing that." And he beat me again until I was unconscious while I was in handcuffs. They took me down to the police station, Southwest Police Station. I was cooperating fully, and as we were walking into the police station, I said, "What, in handcuffs, can we have a fair fight?" He beat me again in my head until I was unconscious again at the police station. They charged me with felony assault on a police officer. When I came to again, I made a complaint against him with the supposedly the supervising officer there at the police station. Went to court, I beat it in court. As far as I know, they never did anything against him. I got subpoenas, a flood of subpoenas for about a year after that, from other cases that he had, and I went to every single one of them, but they would not let me testify. All of them were Black American males that he had choked out. Fast forward to about 2001. Now, I have been a security guard, licensed security professional off and on since about the 90s. And I had called LAPD to do citizens arrest of some people that had pulled up on the front of the building, of the lawn of the apartment building that I was managing, to do a citizen's arrest. LAPD comes out there and arrests me. Now, I had a restraining order against these people also because they had attacked me in my home. They took me to jail, charged me with about 9, 10 felony counts, et cetera, et cetera. I beat all of them. I had to go all the way to trial to beat all of them. All of them were dropped down to misdemeanors. I filed extensive complaints against them and nothing happened.
Thank you, sir.
We have no other speakers, sir.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item number 3, the consent agenda items. Today we have items 3A through L. Let me go through this. I'd like to pull items D and I. Vice President Shields, are there any items that you would like to pull?
B and I, thank you.
B and I, thank you. Commissioner.
Apologize, sorry.
Mhm.
I think I picked the wrong one. It's B and J.
B and J. Okay, so we're pulling B, D, L, J. Did you want L? Not L, okay. Commissioner Kalonche?
I'm good with those, thank you.
So we're going to pull items 3B, 3D, 3D, and 3J. So I would move that we approve the recommendation for board items on items 3A through L, with the exceptions of items 3B, 3D, and 3J. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. I'd like to go to item 3B, which is the department's report on the destruction of obsolete, original, and duplicate records for various areas and divisions. Vice President Shields.
Thank you, and thank you for being here for this item. Just have some questions that there are some, and it appears to be like investigative reports and other reports that are not very dated, but they are marked as original records. I just want to confirm, are these all records where we have a digital copy of them before they are destroyed?
Good morning, Police Commissioners, Chief. My name is Elena Asukan. I am the Commanding Officer of Records and Identification Division, and I'm the custodian of records for the Los Angeles Police Department. In response to your question, Commissioner Shields, yes, all of those, we have a duplicate or digitized record of all crime, arrest, and traffic reports. So we do have that digitized.
Thank you. And you have also confirmed that none of the documents that we are destroying would be the only copy that that the department would have, and that they're not subject to a CPRA request.
Correct. None of the items on here fall under the Senate bills or any legal bills.
Thank you. Those are the only questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Kalonche? Then I would move that we adopt the recommendation for board action on item 3B. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Going to item 3D, department's report relative to donation from National Broadcasting Company Universal, $500 for gym equipment. Is Commander Lim here today?
I have him on Zoom. I'm elevating him.
Okay, thank you.
1 second.
There we go. Hi, it's Brian Lamb from OO. I'm here on Zoom.
Thank you, Commander. Regarding this donation for gym equipment from NBC Universal, it appears the language seems to address any conflict of interest or influence issues. I'm just asking, have we accepted donations from other media networks in the past?
No, not that I'm aware of. But I guess I can't, I'd have to research that and get back to you, but not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to qualify and clarify that because, again, it appears that in the language of this donation and this proposal, that those issues of conflict of interest and influence have been addressed, but I just wanted to be aware of this donation from NBC and if there have been others in the past and who that might entail. So that's my only question, unless other commissioners have questions regarding this donation. Okay, hearing none. Commander, thank you. I would move that we adopt the recommendation for board action, item 3D. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 3I, J. Whoops, 3G, J. Did I pull I? Okay, I didn't pull I. Okay, I meant to pull I. Item 3J, Department's report relative to a donation from the Los Angeles Police Foundation for $20,000 for Apple devices for the Information Technology Bureau. And we have Deputy Chief McMahon.
Good morning, Commissioners. Deputy Chief John McMahon, I'm the department's Chief of Technology, and off to my right here is Police Administrator 2, Sandra Russell, my number 2 at LAPD IT.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here. Question about, can you just describe a little bit about who actually will be using these devices? What are your plans for them? And do any other kind of neighboring cities use similar devices, or will this be kind of a first?
Well, it will be a first in the sense of that this is a type of goggle, if you will, for lack of a better term, that offers immersive video in a vision sense that Apple is currently the only manufacturer thereof. We've had the opportunity at LAPD IT to do 2 different trips down at Apple headquarters to see some of the capabilities that this type of computer will provide for training potentials and innovation potentials. As the department's Chief of Technology, one of my divisions of the 4 commands that I have is Innovation Management Division. So we're always looking for new and different ways to innovate in terms of use of technology. Our innovation helps maintain and develop the department's brand of being a leader in law enforcement innovation and with an emphasis on technology. Both my trip up to Apple, along with, and I'll let Ms. Russell comment on some of the things that she is seeing, it really expands a lot of the possibilities that we can use this particular technology for. It's still relatively untapped. There's a lot of things we don't know. At the end of the day, I think there'll be some very powerful limited uses. For example, one of the things that this particular device really lends itself to is this department continues to head down the road to explore, develop and implement real-time crime centers. There's a large capital investment that goes along with the implementation of that law enforcement strategy that's very important, becoming very prevalent throughout the country, and that is using the capital investment of buildings and large displays similar to the one behind all of you to look at crime on the map and where technology is to be used to develop to deploy resources to its maximum efficiency. What this device will do just on its own, if we have to stand up real-time crime centers in a mobile environment, this type of device allows you to do up to, I believe, 13 different screens that one user can go through and that would occupy a room of this size that you can do on a single device. In terms of training, technical training on things like our civilian trainings in terms of mechanics, other technical type devices, my firsthand review of this technology will really allow us to develop training that provides technical expertise to our employees. There are many more untapped possibilities in this type of device or any other technology. That's the whole reason why we have an innovation management division. But before I continue on, I just want to go over to Ms. Russell visited Apple headquarters roughly about a month and a half ago and saw the device firsthand and can comment on some of the things that she's observed.
I was extremely impressed with the demonstration that they did. The potential for training, for documentation, even like the chief said, of how we place equipment in vehicles or within facilities, documenting that, even for documentation of investigations. There's all sorts of potential down the road for using this type of technology of virtually taking you through a particular scene or situation. I was extremely impressed, and the training potential is unlimited. So it was quite eye-opening, and the implementations for down the road for the department are huge.
And if I may add to that, I'm also very curious, if you will, for lack of a better term, how this type of device and applications built on it will do for crime scene management, crime scene investigations. I think there's a great deal of potential there. But at the end of the day, this is a very modest $20,000 donation from the Los Angeles Police Foundation that allows us to do needed innovation.
So the question though, and I appreciate that context, at the first instance, who will actually be, is there a specific group within the department that will be testing it in the field? Is that just your shop that will be examining it before determining how it can be used elsewhere within the department?
So outside of the potentialities that I've already identified here, these devices will be uniquely assigned to our Innovation Management Division, and as needed, assigned to other people for exploration. They could ultimately end up going to a variety of different subject matter experts throughout the department to kind of give them a look and feel to see what possibly they can come up with that innovation has not.
One additional thing, isn't the department's policy on new technology that the commission has to be briefed a little bit more on, you know, the potential privacy concerns and other things? Like, isn't there a whole process in place before new technology can be deployed within the department?
Yes, new technology, and as looking at the directive, as I recall it, these types of devices are not collecting any data. There's no PII captured. It's not being used for anything other than innovation. So I don't believe, based on my read on it, that it would fall under that category. I'd be happy to look at it again or entertain a different interpretation of that order. But as I understand it, because it doesn't collect any data, it would not fall within that regulation.
Okay, that's a helpful piece of that. So this isn't collecting data on individuals that would fall within the current policy.
And thank you for that question.
Thank you. That's a helpful clarification, because obviously, you know, the new policy was put in place a couple years ago for, you know, real privacy concerns. I would, you know, be supportive of this. I'm very supportive of innovation and technology to help leverage the department. I would ask that after you all, you know, start looking at it before it gets deployed to different parts of the department, that the commissioners get to actually test it out and understand it, so that we can understand whether or not we need any additional policies in place before it gets further deployed.
I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, similar question. I actually was just thinking about like how it was going to be deployed. So it seems that it's more for trying out different things and seeing how it could at some point be integrated. It's not going to be deployed for any crime, public safety, any type of policing work at this point.
At this point, correct. We don't know. At this point, merely it's innovation. I already know that there's going to be some very likely potential value in terms of real-time crime centers, because it allows you to put so many screens on such a small real estate. So I know that's going to have some value. But at the end of the day, sometimes we engage in innovation attempts and that we can't procure, and the foundation has a technology earmark just for these very reasons. And there's some occasions, although I don't believe this is the case today, where we might want to try out and explore something that turns out to be completely useless. I don't believe that's going to be the case here, but I'm confident at some point in time I'll be before you asking for something that we end up not using at all.
Okay, so I do appreciate Commissioner Shields' request that we get more information as we start using it to test out, you know, innovative ways to do our work. Second question is more as a Apple user. What is the life of these tools, since technology changes like so rapidly?
Very good question. This is Apple's first iteration of this type of device. This was something we began to entertain a long time ago. You know, sometimes it takes a while for us to get here with this. And a lot of the feedback and reviews we've got is the weight of its device can somehow be a detractor on some of the users. That's based on some of the reads we just have. But given some of the potential uses that I'm very interested in trying to capitalize on this type of technology for, I don't think that will be too much of a detractor in that it is version 1. It will be upgraded at least a few times. There may be occasions when the next year or two Apple comes out with a version 2 of the device, and we'll go back and maybe relook at it to see if there's a value in continuing to explore this and see what we might discover that we would not know otherwise unless we tried it out. But I think it's fair to say on a technology of that type of nature, you've got a 3 to 5 year span.
Okay, perfect. I'm just curious to know if Apple is interested in any feedback from us on potential uses or how to improve. So I know that you're in communication with possibly the sales side. I'm not sure their research and development. I'm just, yeah.
Yeah,
it's an opportunity for them.
We're very fortunate to have them as a technology partner of ours. There has been a number of different meetings. We've taken 2 different visits up there to look at this device and how other governments have used it. Got some ideas from them. But yeah, they're very curious in our feedback, and we meet with them regularly to give it.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments, I would move that we adopt the recommendation for board action. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Madam Secretary, just a point of order. I believe that initially I was going to pull 3I, but I believe we've already voted on that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I do have a question for Commander Pinto that doesn't affect the vote, which has already been taken, if I may ask it. Thank you, Commander. And my error. So it was a simple question, and I think my question's been answered as I look closer at the proposal here. I was going to ask if we're buying these items, these 20 tables, what happened to the ones we already used? But I think I'm reading here that we've been renting them to this point?
Yes, Commissioner, that's correct. This is a cost-effective measure. As you know, we do several events in our CompStat room. We do rent those events, so the prices are between $1,000 to $1,500 on most of our events. So we're hoping that this is a cost savings measure for the department.
Okay, thank you, sir. And dare I ask where these 20 tables are going to be stored?
That's the next challenge.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We'll find the space.
Okay, thank you. Those are the only questions I had.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to closed session, and the commission will recess for closed session. Thank you very much.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 4A, B, and C in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Okay, good afternoon. We're going to resume our meeting today by taking, I'm going to move to vote to recall agenda item 3I, which is the department's report on a donation from the Police Foundation to the Chief of Staff. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I now need to take a vote to rescind and continue that matter to the next commission meeting. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We will now have the report out by the Executive Director's Office on our closed session items. Ms. Barber?
Thank you. For the record, there is a correction for the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners held on July 23rd, 2024. During closed session, the board adjudicated officer-involved shooting number 038-23 and adopted the following recommendation by a vote 3-0. For tactical debrief, 2 Sergeant 2s are corrected to 2 Sergeant 1s. At the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on July 30th, 2024, during the closed session, the board made the following findings by a 3-0 vote. OIS number 040-23 for tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. For drawing, exhibiting, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. For non-lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. For lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3. Also, the board made the following findings by a 3-0 vote. OIS number 041-23 for tactics, tactical debrief, 1 reserve police officer, level 1. For drawing, exhibiting, in policy, no further action, 1 reserve police officer, level 1. For lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 reserve police officer, level 1. For agenda item 4B1, it was discussed. Agenda item 4C1 discussed. That's the end.
Thank you. I move that we adjourn today's meeting. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you.